welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Nikita Arora. I want to begin by saying me too. When I was 12 or 13 and still learning to use MSN, I received a video call. I didn't know better then, I was just a kid, so I answered the call. And I saw this man masturbating. Initially, I was just confused. I didn't know what was going on. But eventually, I was left in utter shock and disgust. I felt violated, I felt ashamed, I felt dirty. I shut my laptop and I just put it behind me. For a long time, I didn't discuss it with anyone. I have very progressive parents. My grandfather is way ahead of his time, but I still didn't feel comfortable talking about it. I discussed it with my mom a couple of years ago when my maid had a similar experience and we were trying to console her. Since then, I've tried to go back to that time and ask myself why it took me so long to come out in the open and talk about it freely. And I realized that there were a number of questions that were troubling me. And I thought people would ask me, why were you using MSN? Why did you answer a stranger's video call? What gave him the freedom to do it with you? Or what provoked him into it? Or why didn't you discuss it immediately? I even thought some people would point fingers at my mom and say she wasn't a good mother because she wasn't able to prevent this from happening, or she was letting me use the internet. And I didn't want any of that to happen, so I just told myself that he was a bad man and these things happen, and I just moved on. But 13 years later, that experience still scars me. And I know that other women have been through much more horrifying experiences, deeply horrifying experiences. We live in a society that blames women. It's hard to explain, but it's always a why did you rather than a how could he. And maybe it's so ingrained in us that despite having really strong support systems, we always put the onus on ourselves for traumatizing experiences that we go through. And for all those who are asking, why now, why so late, why 30 years later, it's not rocket science. It's the fear of being judged by friends, by family, by society. It's the fear of being asked to answer uncomfortable questions like, why do you wear such clothes? Why do you mingle with boys? Why do you go out late at night? It's the fear of losing your job, the fear of missing opportunities. But when you feel strengthened by the environment around you, because there are other women who are sharing their experiences and the society is feeling pressure to empathize, you feel comfortable talking about it. Many are asking, why are women talking about it on social media, or why are they talking to journalists? Why can't they file an FIR instead and take the legal route? But it's not an either or. Every part of the process plays an important role. It's liberating to be finally able to talk about it. It takes the burden off your chest. If social media is enabling women to finally find a voice, it's a welcome change. Filing an FIR, no doubt, is important. But let's accept that the environment is not the most conducive to doing that. You will be told by your friends, by your family, and even the police in some cases that it's a small matter, that you will lose your Izzat if you make it public. How a woman loses her Izzat when a man oversteps his boundaries, I'll never know. It's time we start talking about the perpetrators rather than the victims. MJ Akbar, Sajid Khan, Anurag Kashyap, Vikas Bahal, Tanmay Bhatt, K.R. Srinivas, Times of India resident editor, Gauri Dasan Nair, Kerala editor of The Hindu, Satadru Ojha, editor of Calcutta Times, Prashant Jha, politics editor and bureau chief of HT Delhi. Many big names have had to step down, either because of their negligence or because of allegations of active sexual harassment. The previous government passed a Workplace Harassment Act and the Supreme Court laid down the Vishakha guidelines, a link to which I've shared in the description. But it's important that both men and women are aware of many common instances of sexual harassment. Because I personally know men who crack lewd jokes at women but are blissfully unaware that it counts as sexual harassment. So let's look at these. Singing lewd songs or cracking lewd jokes to harass women is sexual harassment. Demanding sexual favors despite indication of disinterest. Stalking. Threats to life and property when sexual advances are turned down. Watching, capturing or sharing images of women engaging in a private act without her consent. Colleague demanding sexual favors in exchange for work benefits like a promotion or a salary hike. Morphing pictures of women and sharing them with the intention to harass her. Posting obscene or defamatory material on a public online platform to harass a woman. Making sexually colored remarks against a woman in a public space. Making unwanted physical contact with a woman against her will. And abusing a woman with sexually colored remarks on social media. Metoo has made the conversation of sexual harassment mainstream. It has made women more aware of their rights and men more aware of their behavior and their ignorance. We need to preserve the sanctity of this movement. Will there be false allegations, political vendetta and personal revenge? Of course. Will these allegations cause a person his goodwill and reputation? Absolutely. But let's not put a spoke in the wheel just yet. Let's hear women's stories. Let's give the movement time to evolve and strengthen. Let's give women time to prove their claims. The truth will ultimately emerge. A few predators have to go to jail for the fear of law to set in. Journalists, actors, and people at large have to socially ostracize culprits. Stop working with proven sexual offenders. Stop reading their books, stop watching their movies, stop enriching them with your money and praise. Make them aware that it's not an opaque world of fantasy where you can just get away with exploiting women. People within the industry and outside must stand in solidarity with the victims and offer them opportunities for work and growth based on their talent, not be bogged down by industry bigwigs. Many people are certain that this is just a flash in the pan and it's going to be business as usual in a couple of weeks. It's up to us to strengthen the movement and give voice to every Me Too moment and make sure that the movement does not die down. We need to change as a society. We need to move away from a patriarchal mindset to a more egalitarian one, where women are not seen as objects of entertainment. We have to change the way we treat women, how we judge them for their choice of profession or their choice of clothing or what we expect from them. Women as teachers, mothers, wives, sisters need to object every time their husbands or their brothers or the men around them pass a lewd joke or brag about taking advantage of their colleagues or their classmates. It is this anti-women environment that needs to change first. Men need to start respecting all women, be it a porn star, an item girl, an actor, a journalist, or professor, whatever she chooses to be, because she still retains her right to say no, whether she drinks alcohol or she wears short clothes or whether she goes out late at night or whether she loses her virginity. Me Too is a gender-neutral movement. Women in positions of power have been accused of exploiting men as well, and their stories need to be heard. But there's no denying that the majority of victims are women. And overall, the society needs a paradigm shift. The onus needs to shift from women being told to stay safe to men being told to restrain, restrict, and respect. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and press the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video.